Welcome to Pain to Purpose, the podcast where we transform our pain into power, peace, and purpose. I'm Sarah, your hope dealer, inspirational guide, and the storyteller in this podcast. Each week, we dive into inspirational stories of overcoming grief, custody battles, and trauma. Together, we'll foster transformation, resilience, and claim your personal responsibility for your story. Our stories offer hope, encouragement, and community support, guiding you toward better health and wellness. Join me as we discover actionable ways to leverage our struggles, find healing, and rise like a phoenix. Tune in to uncover your purpose, embrace mental health, and serve others, all while finding the strength to keep going.
So do you think, like, as it stands now, do you think you made the right decision by not turning over the child for those 6 weeks? Like, I guess, would you do the same thing again?
I'm not sure.
Because this does complicate things, right? Because if you're under a court order to do something and you don't do it, that is going to create some ramifications, right? I mean, so you first, I mean, the first there is the default judgment that goes in, and now legally speaking, your ex has full legal custody of your child, and you're in violation of a court order. So now you have a criminal record.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, hindsight looking back, I don't know how I would have done it, but yeah, okay, turn my child over.
And I'm not saying you should have, right? That's not where I'm coming from. I don't know enough about this stuff, and I don't know how you do it. To your point, I don't know how you as a parent just turn over your child, especially when you feel that there's like a clear and present danger to that child. Like, I don't know how you do that. I'm just wondering now from where you are today, do you think you did the right thing?
I stand by the decision that I made. I believe I made the right decision with what I had at that point to keep my son safe,
Okay.
as well as the dignity of my rights. What they deem as a violation of a court order. It wasn't even a valid court order to begin with, because you didn't even take my side of the story. Like, everything was just a total sham. Like, you literally did not hear evidence. There was this judge knew nothing about the case. So I stand by my decision, as excruciating as the story continues to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I did, at that moment, I did what the only thing I knew to do was to keep my baby safe for as long as I could.
So what happened? You stay in hiding, you try and file stuff to get this looked at, to have some kind of hearing or something. What happens?
Yeah, so I was continuing on with the federal case. I added more people. I added 5 more people to the federal case as well. I was trying to move that through while living undercover. Incredibly difficult. Trying to get some traction in this civil case of, like, there was no due process. And that wasn't really going anywhere. I was tapped out on all fronts. For sure. River turned 4 April 12th, 2022. And we switched safe houses a few weeks later. I didn't really know what was happening. There was a lot of media coverage. My ex hired a private investigator. The area that we had left, there was posters of my face, of my son's face, missing, wanted, on supermarkets, on post offices, gas stations, hardware stores, in at least 4 states.
Wow.
And I had some friends text me. They were like, "What is going on? We just saw you at ski lessons." I'm like, "I have a very crazy, vindictive ex." He
So
was
this is like they're treating this like a kidnapping now.
correct.
Wow.
And his attorney had ties with a local news reporter. They interviewed me. They interviewed him. It was so skewed. It was ridiculous. And they were vicious. I mean, my face was everywhere.
Wow.
And they really wanted me to feel the humiliation and the shame of that. And that's probably why I'm doing this podcast, to be like, no, like, yeah, you can do all that stuff, but I'm taking ownership of this story. And no matter what you have attempted to do to me, my purpose is way bigger than that. And so April 29th, 2022, we switched to safe houses, and a woman took us to a park. I played with River over 3 hours in this park. He had just turned 4. And I had noticed somebody with like black glasses, somebody that did not really fit the profile. And I was like, interesting. I wonder why that person's here. And River and I had a wonderful time playing. We made some friends with other kids there. I was playing tag with them. This person watched us for 3 hours. The safe house woman took us. We were en route back to the safe house, and I will never. There's some moments that will never leave my memory, and I remember a police car going the opposite way with sirens on, and I knew they were coming for us, for me. And I saw them like do a U-turn and pulled us over. I was in the passenger seat. They dragged me out of the car. I mean, I'm instantly swarmed, as if like, I mean, the biggest drug heist in America, like, we've got her. They dragged me out of the car, River screaming. And they handcuffed me. And I was under arrest for custodial interference, which is a recent new statute. Again, it's not constitutional. It has nothing to do with any of our rights. It's just they're really coming after protective parents. They are criminalized. The government is criminalizing many things, which includes being a parent. As a parent, we have rights to our children, whether the court says we do or not. And the court has interfered with our inalienable rights, and that's why it's all part of this child human trafficking. And I was human trafficked. I'll get to that story in a second, but you know, and at that point, I knew it was over. I didn't fight. There was nothing else I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I need to see River. And so they brought River over. And my hands were handcuffed behind my back. And I just kind of reached my hands over, and he's just looking at me like, Mama, what's going on? And I said a prayer for him. And I really wanted like the universe to deliver us at that moment. And it didn't happen.
And that was the last time you saw him.
And that was the last time I've seen him. And like, I can never, he's screaming, give me my mama back. I want my mama back. And they took him to CPS. The CPS lady didn't even know how to put the car seat in her car. The police officer had to go over and like, I had to direct them from like 500 feet away of like, no, it goes like this, like crazy. And so at this point, as of this recording, I have had zero contact against court order with my son. I do not know where my son is. It's been over 2 years at this point.
And he's 6 now?
He's now 6.
And you haven't seen him since that day. And the business comes apart. Like, everything comes crashing down once again.
Yeah, I lost my son. I lost my business. I lost my home. I lost my car. I lost my driver's license.
And at
The
that point, now you're going to jail, I assume.
Yeah, so River was just literally ripped out of my arms. I was hauled off to this jail as a person who has never really drank or done anything. Like, I don't even drink coffee. Like, I eat organic food. Let me just tell you, jail was a very interesting experience.
How long were you in jail?
I ended up being in jail for 130 days
Wow.
for 4.5 months. I don't even have like a parking ticket on my record. Like, driving, I don't even have a driving infraction. Like, it was insane. And I just, like, I remember being, this is going to be the part of the film that will wreck everybody, but I just remember like being booked in, and you're stripped naked. You're giving their clothes to wear. I am just a wreck of, like, where is my baby? Like, he has only slept with me. uh, I mean, the screams pierced that jail.
Hmm.
It like, my screams pierced earth. I mean, just, it was the most horrific thing I've ever experienced.
So at what point do you surrender to all of it? Like, when you recognize there's not there's nothing, like, I have no leverage here. I have no leverage, I have no power, I have no rights, I have no choices, I got nothing. Like, you're truly just, at what point does that kind of land? Or does it?
It took some days to be in jail, to kind of, like, I was such in shock, of just the last couple of months, the last, 4 years of being in this hell. And then now I'm here, like, the wrong person is in jail. Like, that was tough. The wrong person was, criminalized for just simply protecting her child. That was hard. And honestly, and it was when I told River, I'm like, Mama, we'll see you soon. The officers, they're like, tell River goodbye. And I'm like, I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm going to say, see you soon. I did not think it
Hmm.
would be this long and counting. Um, and really, honestly, my next point was to survive jail. It was in a country jail. Like, it was kind of rough, to be honest. I have never obviously been in that situation before. And I was just like, okay, like, my next goal, get out. Like, how do we get out? And I was, because I was in a different state, I had to go through the whole extradition process, and so that took quite some time.
So you're in jail for 4 months plus. What
Yeah.
got you out?
And yeah, I mean, and I guess back up, the whole, like, jail experience. I'm like the only sane white person in jail. And I mean, I don't know drugs from drugs. I don't know what this stuff is. And like, most of the women in there, they're rotating in and out of jail. It was really, like, in the first jail I was in, I was there 75 days. And a couple of women were in there 2 or 3 times. They came and left 3 times. And the women didn't want me to leave. I was like their bright light. I brought
Hmm.
just, some kind of peace. They would line up at night and ask me to pray with them.
Hmm.
And, I guess it was kind of, I guess at one point I was like, you know what? Like, I'm in this dark space, like, literally darkness. There's no fresh air. There's no sunrises. There's no sunsets. There's no birds. There's no trees. I have never appreciated color since being out of jail so much that I do today. Like I like color. Like I love color at this point. Um, and so I'm gonna shine my light however I can. Like this dark space somehow needs me for some purpose, for some reason. And I poured into those women as much as I could. And I guess maybe it was I didn't know when I was going to be extradited, but like a week or two before I left, I got some paper and like a pen. You can't even have real pens in there because I guess it can be used for like stabbing people. Like all news to me. And I wrote like this 3-page um, letter of like how to thrive in jail, and I taped it to the wall by like the
Mm.
phone. And I gave them, I think it was like 10 different tips of like how to thrive in jail, just to, whoever else was coming through after me or in there currently, of you're in the darkest space you could possibly ever be on earth. And you know how are you going to get through it? And so I did my best to give love and light in that very dark space, even though I was hurting so bad with not knowing where my son was. I was eventually extradited, which is a whole human trafficking story in of itself. I was in the airport, and the female officer, it was funny, this airport had like the poster of like the signs of human trafficking. And I literally looked at her. I'm like, just replace boyfriend with government. What do you have? And she was like, oh, you're right. No ID, no money. I'm being manhandled. I'm like in undercover clothes. When I think about that, like, oh, I was actually trafficked. Like, oh, like I still have to kind of like remind myself of that sometimes because it was such a horrific time.
Mm-hmm.
And so ended up in the home state jail for another like 55 days. And eventually I had a plea agreement, and I was able to be released on this plea agreement.
What was the plea?
The plea was 3 years of probation, pay a bunch of money to the courts. Um, that was it. And it's a withheld judgment, so it means when I finish probation, either before or ahead of time, it will be off my record because I haven't done anything. So I
And when
guess
does that happen? Like, how much more time before that happens?
as of right now,
Another
as of
year?
as of right now, November 15th, 2025, I believe.
Okay, so about a year and a half. So where does everything stand now? Okay, so you're out of jail. You haven't seen your child in a couple of years. You don't know where he is, how he is. Are you working? Like what does your life look like now? And what are your plans moving forward?
Yeah, so I was released on September 6th, 2022, and I literally walked out of that jail with nothing. Really walking into the unknown again.
Did you have anywhere to go?
No, I had nowhere to go, and I did have one friend who picked me up. And I said, drop me off at this other friend's house. And I literally like showed up on their door, and they were like, Sarah, oh my gosh, where have you been? Like we thought you were safe. And I told them obviously what had just happened. So I stayed with them for a few nights, and then I lived with another friend for like the next 6 months. I literally walked out of jail with nothing. I had no car, I had no driver's license. The government already hacked into my personal checking account, took money out of it. Like I was starting from square one again. And
Wow.
so at that point, I was like, okay, I just had to get myself stable. Of being incarcerated for that length of time for a person who hasn't done anything is quite significant. And so I really had to reorient myself to life on the outside, which was a whole episode in of itself.
Mhm.
I pretty much stayed to myself. I couldn't, I lived in a very small town who, my face was everywhere. And so it took me a long time to be able to walk into a grocery store without having a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Even to this day, I still, it's not quite panic, but the anxiety is still pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
And so just trying to get myself, restabilized during that process. And I was like, okay, I have the time and space to heal. A fracture this big cannot happen again. Like, what caused this? And so for now, it was 2 years, I have been deep into figuring out what, what has happened, what
Mm-hmm.
caused this to happen, what was and is my role in this, and really to alchemize it. And I guess I will back up a few months. So February 2022, um, spirit, source, universe gave me the name Hope Rose. Did not know what it was for at that point. It saved me from a lot of vitriol on Facebook, which I am just so eh, grateful for. Again, my story was pretty public, and it was all over news media, and people were, when people don't understand humanity and violence and abuse and just like the dignity and the rawness of somebody's story, they will gang up on you very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much empathy, and it's just, this person did this, how could she do it? And it was just, and the media portrayed the story as if I had been, you know taking my son his entire life. It was like, no, I had custody the entire time. Like, somebody just stole my son from me with no evidence, no nothing. Like, I'm still in shock. And so, post jail, I've just been on this journey of like, okay, it's Hope Rose. Like, Hope Rose is going to rise from these ashes. We're going to alchemize all of this. And I get to be the author of my story. And I get to help other people be the author of their story. And we've got, as a collective society, to come together and say, these, future generations, they need healed parents. We don't need more abuse and fights in family court. And so there's, I guess, there's a larger picture here, larger vision of helping fathers and mothers, like what is driving the vitriol, what is driving the hate, what is, is it safety, or is it just, I just want to, beat this mother to a pulp because I don't want to pay child support, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever their motive is. And so I have, used, like, this story is going to be used for good. What they meant for evil, I meant for good. And I'm, yeah, coming out with this raw story that, um, has shaped my life forever. And I'm determined, even though there's some really difficult days, to um, to use this story of pain, steward it to the best of my ability. And I believe it's being honest with, the story that I've, gone through and experienced. And I pray that it helps others through whatever they are going through.
So, what does authoring your story look like for you? I mean, again, you highlight so beautifully your ability to see a bigger picture, and see what beyond you is available. Like, again, like with the bakery, it wasn't just for you. You provided a platform where other single mothers could, create a living for themselves. And then, the um, going to court with not just the idea that this is what's correct and justice and this is also what I want. It's also in service to all of these other women out there that are struggling with these kinds of things. I mean, there's that framework of yours, again, seeing a bigger picture that's available. What is the story that you're authoring as you frame it? What does that look like for you on the personal level moving forward?
Yeah, I guess, really not to be ashamed of what I've gone through. It was nothing that I did maliciously. There's nothing, I'm not a criminal per se. The labels that society wants to put on me or put on you, or, like the listener, is that who you identify as? or are you going to choose a different identity? And it's like yes, this occurred in my reality. Okay, I'm going to own it. I'm going to speak about it. I'm going to share it. And I get to write the book. I get to write the volumes. They might have some sentences in there, but I get to have, the beginning and the middle and the end, and maybe a film, maybe something else, maybe a second book. And so really, I guess viewing this tragic situation that I wish on nobody, that no mother should ever have to go through this, but viewing it as, okay, it's the gift I didn't want to open, but that opened me to be of the highest service to the universe.
The gift I didn't want to open that opened me. That's a beautiful and powerful statement. What about the cases? The federal case, the local case? Are you continuing with this? Is this ongoing?
So the federal case, because I was in jail, that eventually just dissipated. So that's currently closed. I guess I could open it when and if I so choose. Don't know if I would do it on my own again. Maybe in the future somebody will help me out with a federal lawsuit. Um, I do think there's ramifications for what happened in my case, because everybody that I've spoken in the last since I've been out of jail, I've spoken with countless attorneys, and everyone is shocked at what has happened. They're like, "How?" And I'm like, "You tell me." So I
Mm.
do think there could be some recourse if I had the right legal team on my side to bring um, some relief in that area. Um, as far as the custody case, I'm still in custody court. My ex, I've reached out to him, per court order. I'm allowed visitation with my son. The way the court order is written in the custody agreement is visitation as the parties agree. And because the way it's worded, he doesn't agree to anything, and so he every time I've asked for visitation, he just refuses. I've sought legal help on that. Many We've explored every different avenue we can. He has told my previous legal team that no, he's refusing to let me see River, and so we are continuing legal court, going on 6 years, and so that story continues to unfold. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like. But I hope there's some resolution and some restoration between me and my son soon
Mm.
in some capacity.
What would you say to somebody who is going through something right now? I say it's we can't really compare one story to another, and I would there's a part of me that wants to say not many people have gone through this level of you know trauma and such extreme circumstances. Like not many people have gone through what you've gone through and had so many layers of what you've gone through. Right now somebody is going through something that they don't think they can, a burden that they don't think they can shoulder. Um, what do you say to them?
When you experience any level or variety of trauma and tragedy, or grief, or situations that don't make sense, sometimes it's not words don't always bring comfort. It's a hug. It's just a sense of presence. And so I don't know if I can offer any words except I understand more than of what it's like to go through really horrific situations, and to make peace with the senseless. Like, it's never going to make sense what happened. And I think I'm still working through that. Like, this is, this, what has, happened it doesn't make sense. And so my ability to respond in this situation is like, okay, it doesn't make sense. Got it. Now I can move forward. And that's, that's the peace we can find. And, I won't say I'm 100%, A plus in this all the time, but that's what I'm striving for. And if there's any way you can pull yourself out and to look at the bigger picture, that's kind of what will, I believe, help you to navigate the days and the months and the years in your situation.
Make peace with the senseless. That's really brilliant, because you're right. There's a world in our heads, right? And even when relating to somebody else, there's a world in that person's head that makes no sense to the world in my head. And to be in a place of radical acceptance of that, to be like, okay, it makes no sense, to be at peace with that, to get out of the construct of how unfair something is, and to move forward knowing that it will never be fair. It's not about what's fair or unfair. It's about what makes sense or what doesn't make sense. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's about where can I go from here and what can I do. And that really is an incredible, I don't know if it's a talent or a skill or an awareness that you've had. That is not easy, right? I mean, it's not complicated. It's not at all easy to make peace with the senseless, to let go of the construct of the unfair, and kind of surrender into that so that you can move forward. Um, I want to acknowledge you for sharing your story, for pushing through everything that you've pushed through with regard to the fear and the shame and the sadness, and the way that you look at this through the lens of alchemy, the way that you look at this, because this is your story, and many others, and perhaps somebody even listening right now that may not think so, because, oh, it's my story is not as big or grandiose as hers or whatever. There is this Aaron Brockovich kind of quality, this joy with, what was her name, Jennifer, what's her name, the you know the that movie Joy. This has all the makings of that kind of life and that kind of story, and so do many others. They may not seem like it on the surface. Maybe somebody didn't go to jail or didn't go through what you went through, but for you to the human themes of the fear and the shame and the loss and the sadness and all the things, you really are quite a remarkable human. And thank you so much for sharing your story. uh, I want to wish you all the best in moving forward and continuing with your work and your podcast, and continuing with the architecture of your life. And if there's anything I can do to support you, you can reach out.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate your time and your energy, and yeah, taking taking the time to interview me for this. It means a lot. I would like to, I guess, before we officially wrap up, is, in the last couple of years, and even when I was in jail, uh, I think being angry at my ex for, what has happened, and when I was in jail, I realized that he is hurting so bad. This is the only way he knows how to get love.
Mm.
And I really kind of put myself not in shoes beside him, let's put it that way, of like, wow, like, he is hurt, he is so wounded, he has never stopped to even think about consciousness or awareness of his actions. And there's a lot of history to his story that I'm privy to. And I've moved into a place of compassion for him. And after all that he has done to attempt to, nobody can hurt us, only, we hurt ourselves. There's, obviously that framework, but,
Mm.
everything he's done to, I'm going to steal your son, and, you see what happens to you. I'm going to take your name away. I'm going to blast you on, you know, across states with posters, and like all the things he's attempted to do. He is such a miserable, sad, pathetic human that is crying for love, for acceptance, for to be seen, to be heard. And I shared this with you recently, but every time I want to get angry at him of like, I haven't seen my son, you're like literally deliberately preventing me from seeing my son. I just move into a place of total love for him and just sending him love because I know he is hurting so bad to be at that level of like I have to hurt someone else. And the statement that we always hear is, hurt people, hurt people. And I like to, unhealed people hurt people because I can be
Mm.
hurt, but I can still heal from my hurt. And I can send love from my place of hurt. And so he is just such a wounded individual that I pray um, he finds what his soul is looking for because the damage is he's done a lot of damage to a lot of different people, and
Mm.
it's hurting him as well, and it's leaving shrapnel everywhere he goes, and we're kind of just in the wake of his decisions, and there's certainly no
Mm.
responsibility on my part obviously too, but looking at it from a bigger standpoint of just even my son, my son is standing in the wake of how he's treating the mother of his child, and how does that translate to other generations, to other people. And when you treat the mother of the child such as he's treated me, it just gives you an indication of the level of hurt he has experienced. And so I hope he finds healing. And as hard as these stories are, I come across custody stories all the time of a lot of fathers, have killed their kids, and it's and done horrible things, and there's just a lot of tragic stories out there. And so I am hopeful that with my story, I can bring some healing and some peace between men and women collectively of like, we can eradicate family court by personal responsibility, by forgiveness, by healing and taking ownership of our own shit. And we don't have to drag each other through the mud to validate whatever script is running in our mind.
That is a very tough place to get to, because it does happen on both sides. Mothers keeping their children from fathers and vice versa. And but to be able to put yourself in that position where you recognize that it's not that this person is raining on me. I'm simply standing in the path of their storm, and to recognize that had it not been you, it would have been somebody else. So it's not about you personally. It's about their woundedness. It's about their unhealed issues, and to be able to move into a place of compassion for your ex, especially after everything has happened, to remove yourself from victim consciousness and all the "he did that to me" kind of structure and framework. That's a very difficult place to get to, and it is another testament to your strength and to your resolve to do what is in your highest service, in the highest service of your son, regardless of whether or not you have contact in the moment. I mean, that takes a very astute person, somebody with a very high level of self-awareness and a willingness to move their ego aside to tap into the bigger picture and do the greater thing. And it really is very impressive.
Thank you. I received that. I think, I shared with you also recently, like, who do I need to become to, love my ex, not in the romantic sense, but just love in general? Who do I need to become to, to be the mother that River needs in whatever capacity that is? How can I love my ex in this situation, when is continuing to do things? Who do I need to become to be the person that the world is looking for? And I think maybe that's part of my North Star on on the really tough days and moments that I have. I'm certainly, not 100% in any of this. It's I'm still a student, um but just in sitting here and dialoguing with you, it's who do I need to become, and what needs to happen in order for that becoming to happen.
Well, Sarah, thank you again for sharing your story. I wish you all the best for your podcast and for everything as you move forward. And again, if there's anything we can do to support you, please let us know.
Thank you, Chris.
Good
Have
to
a
see you.
beautiful day, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the Pain to Purpose podcast. If you got something out of today's episode, please take a screenshot and share it on social media with your takeaway. Don't forget to tag us at Hope Rose Speaks. Have a beautiful day.